Hello and welcome to a new video of me just yapping again about trinkets because I felt like it. Today we're doing Plague Doctor because one person in the comments asked, which is a majority of my comments, so unfortunately I can say that yeah. Most of you guys will most likely would have liked to see this video, so that's why I'm doing it. But yeah, PD. Her trinkets are kind of a mixed bag, mainly because there's one that's just completely busted, and the others are just like, yeah, you know. They exist, they are certainly trinkets, so yeah, let's get right into it. As always, if you want to see more of this, you can subscribe, you can follow me on Twitch if you want to catch me live, all that good stuff. But yeah, let's get right into it. Plague Doctor. Her common trinket, Diseased Herb. 40% disease resist. It's pretty much just gonna be it there. It's like, yeah, it's no downside, but 40% disease resist is not the most important stat. Diseases in general are already like pretty rare. There's like only like a couple of enemies that can actually apply them, especially like early on. And most of the time, those enemies are like the ones you really want to kill because they can like target other heroes, right? And if they target someone that isn't PD, you aren't getting anybody off this. So it's just not great. And the other thing with PD, she has really good disease resist already, so this pushes up her up to 90%, which is kind of good. You are basically disease capped at that point, and you just most likely won't get diseased anyways. But it's also just PD, like, you have the cure, which just cures your own disease for 1 point, and you also get more disease resist from that, so she's already, like, very, very resistant against diseases, so this thing just ends up being like, yeah, you don't really care about this. If you find it super early, hey, maybe you can equip it. It might come in handy because the most important part about disease resist is usually like the quirk screen, because disease resist does affect that. That's also why you should pop holy water at the very end of dungeons before leaving the dungeon if you have any left, because then you can carry disease resist into that final bit, and you can potentially resist the disease resist or get a disease resist on the quirk screen, where of course the cure can obviously like, trigger unless you bring her into like the next dungeon, which then you have to like play the dungeon with the disease, which is like, do you really want to deal with that? Not really. So yeah, it's somewhat useful, but I would just prefer like actual stats that help me like prevent the disease in the first place. And of course, the quirk thing at the like the quirk reward screen, sure, that's like a slight upside, but is it enough to bring this over like any real trinket? Not really. So it just ends up being down here. It's not great, but it isn't like complete ass cheeks either. Now, moving on, Rotgut Sensor. 8 accuracy, -5 max HP. This thing is surprisingly good. You don't think about it, but it's 8 accuracy, which is a pretty good stat. Especially because it's like a neutral accuracy. Because normally, like, PD tends to want ranged accuracy, because of course, like, most of the stuff except Incision is just ranged. But finding this early is actually not that bad, because PD's HP is so bad that it usually like, ends up taking off 1 point, which it doesn't really matter. So the 8 extra accuracy is really, really good early, of course, for like all her stuff. And even later on, it can be better than certain like neutral stuff, like for example Steady Bracer, which also cuts into your defense slightly with that -2 dodge, but it gives you 10 ranged accuracy. But if you have, for example, in like Courtyard and you're running Incision for some reason, like if for example in Warrens or something, and you run Incision, then sure, might as well equip that over like something like Steady Bracer. Of course, usually you don't care about that because, you know, that's usually an accuracy trinket, but it can actually be quite good because in like a place like Warrens or Weald, where like you don't have like Blasphemous for some reason, you don't have like good Blight skill chance, then Noxious Blast and Plague Raid really aren't doing that much. So you can run like a set of Blinding Gas, Incision, Medicine, and Disorienting Blast, which is actually pretty good, and it's really good in Courtyard and even Warrens. Because those enemies just are very resistant to all your blights. So having that neutral accuracy option can be kind of nice, and that's why I think like okay is a fair place to put it, just because of how good it is to find early. Later on, it tends to just get boxed out by like the really, really obvious top tier, and then it's just like, yeah, can you really fit 8 accuracy into a second slot? Not really. So it just ends up being like not that great later on, but early on, very good trinket. I love finding this thing. It's one of the best common trinkets to find. Speaking of, there's one common trinket I would think is better than this. Witch's Vial. This thing is really, really good. Witch's Vial is fantastic. This thing is 50% stun skill chance for no downside. And you might be like, hey, what's the big deal? It's the comparison. Because the competition for this is usually not even Blasphemous Vial, Of course, like, obviously you would pick Blasphemous Vial over this, like, just look at the stats, like, obviously. But as a secondary stun trinket, because you can run it next to Blasphemous Vial, this is actually like the highest stun skill chance PD can get to outside of Courtyard, because in Courtyard you can run Dazzling Mirror, which is just a lot better. But if you have like your speed covered, this is a good secondary option. Like if you just want maximum stun chance, hey, this is like the best option you have very often. Like if you don't want speed for some reason, if you have like a boss fight or whatever, like if you're going to like the final dungeons where like you kind of know, oh yeah, I probably outspeed like the most important stuff anyways, then hey, this is a good option. Like it's 50% stun skill chance compared to like the neutral, which is like 10%, but those give you like extra stun resist sometimes, like stun amulet. But then they cut into like your dodge, which is kind of like yeah, and you get like 5% less stun chance, which is like yeah. So this ends up being like a pretty good secondary option next to Blasphemous Vial if you don't care about speed. Like usually you really want to have Blasphemous Vial and speed, so you outspeed the backline, and that's just like, yeah, you just kind of got to go with that. But if you don't want to have that, if you have like really good speed already, then Witch's Vial is like a really good option. And finding this early, obviously, amazing. When it isn't competing against Blasphemous Vial, this is like your main stun chance trinket. It just makes Blinding Gas better, it makes Disorienting Blast better, it's such a good trinket. Yeah. So this definitely is a good tier. It's not definitely not up here. You don't care about a new second slot that often, but it can be very good. And just for that, I think good tier is quite deserved for it. You could say like it's down here, but I'm gonna put it into good tier just because I believe it deserves that little nod, you know. Now, Poison Herb, 40% light skill chance, minus 50% max HP. This thing is really just not good. Like, honestly, I might put it down here. I never equip this thing. It's really bad. The reason for that is just that it's very often just like way too big of a max HP cut. Like with this, it's fine. It's only like you lose like 1 HP. Whatever, who cares? 1 HP, probably not a big deal. This tends to be a lot more. Like later on, this ends up being like 5 or 6 HP, which is like a kind of a big jump. So I really don't like bringing this. And the upside just isn't all there. Like 40% light skill chance is just not good enough. Because Plague Doctor's first roll is always stunning. And fixing your secondary roll is just not that important, especially when the stuff that helps your first roll can also help your secondary roll, right? Because you open with Blinding Gas, right? Like, that's just a no-brainer. You always open with Blinding Gas, basically. So this is just automatically like a better equip, or like any stun skill chance. And what else helps PD? Speed, defensive stats. Speed? Well, that also helps damage over time. It helps your stuns because you can stun enemies before they can act, and it helps your damage over time stick before like so that it can like take an additional time. So all of that is just way more important than actual like blight skill chance. Because very often, like, you don't care about her blights. Like, there's a reason like she's really, really good in like every single region, and that's her stuns. So losing like a secondary upside, who gives a shit? And as I already mentioned, like the kit that I recommended, like without her blights, like Blinding Gas, Incision, Medicine, and Disorienting Blast, hey, like that's just good. Like the fact that something like that can work, and like it's still like a completely good contribution to the team, just kind of shows that like the upside of this just isn't there. And in my opinion, there's very little reason to ever equip this. And even if you say, oh, I want to maximize blight skill chance in like the late game, there's a much, much better option that we'll get to in a second. So it's just not a good trinket. And even if you wanted to like stack blight skill chance, there's like the Blight Amulet, which also nobody uses. Like, who the fuck uses Blight Amulet on Plague Doctor, right? Like, that's kind of the comparison I'm going with, because Blight Amulet is like a really bad trinket, and it gives you a 30% blight skill chance. And even Hag's Ladle, like, I don't ever use Hag's Ladle on PD, because it just isn't great. Because it just doesn't help, like, my primary role of stunning. And that's kind of, like, why this thing is so far down. Like, if PD didn't have, like, amazing stuns, then this would probably be, like, way up high, but she just doesn't. And so this 40% just ends up being like, yeah, sure, cool. It helps, like, my secondary role, but I don't really give a shit. It's the same as, like, giving, like, Highwayman, like, Blight or Bleed skill chance. Like, would you ever put, like, the Bleed Amulet that gives, like, 20% Bleed skill chance on Highwayman? Not really, because it doesn't affect him that much. Would you give him Debuff Amulet for, like, specifically, like, the Grape Shot Blast and Open Vein debuffs? Not really. And that's kind of, like, where I'm at with this, where, like, it just doesn't do enough, you know? Because your stuns are way more important, and when there's like 1 or 2 enemies left, very often you just want to start healing because you're stalling. And if you don't stick your blights, oh, big deal. Most likely you don't care. And with her other consistency boosters, her blights end up being like very consistent anyways. So this just ends up being like completely useless the moment you find her better trinkets. So yeah, I think this is kind of deserved. You could maybe argue that like it's up here, but I really don't see the use of this thing. It's just really, really bad. Now, Bloody Herb. Bloody Herb is interesting, because it really isn't that good. Like, I don't think I should put it lower than this, because it doesn't have any downside, but it really isn't good. Like, even if you run Incision, it just isn't good. Because it only helps one skill. And the skill you're helping really isn't all that. Because, like, all this, hey, cool. But the 10 accuracy, it's like, yeah, it just puts it on par with, like, Noxious Blast. And very often when you equip Incision, it's less that, like, oh yeah, this is like a core part of my kit, right? And it's more so just, yeah, I have this as like a emergency button. If I get, like, pulled up front, then I use Incision. That's what Incision is usually there for. And when, like, you realize, oh yeah, I'm not, like, gonna be blighting quite often, then you really just pick up for the stuns. And most of the time you just stun every single turn. Then you have, like, Battlefield Medicine as your secondary option. And if you have, like, literally nothing else to do, you can press Incision. That's, like, when you have Incision equipped. And kind of the same argument as with Poison Herb, where, like, it's like your really, like, secondary, like, third tier? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's not your, like, your first priority skill. It's not, like, your secondary priority skill either, probably. So it's just like, yeah, would you really spend, like, half your trinket slots to have, like, a skill you most likely won't be pressing every fight? That feels just really, really bad, right? So, there's just better options. Again, like, speed exists. Rotgut Sensor, this helps, like, both her, like, normal accuracy and Incision. So I just prefer this over Bloody Herb very often. Like, in a one-to-one comparison, hey man, I would pick Rotgut Sensor. Which is a bit crazy to say, but honestly, yeah, I would pick Rotgut Sensor over Bloody Herb. Because Bloody Herb just doesn't help her other stuff. I would rather have, like, the bonus to Blinding Gas, because that's my most important skill. Bloody Herb is cool if you want to, like, see PD do, like, good on-hit damage and want to, like, see big orange number, but in that case, you could just pick someone else that isn't PD, right? And all of these stats are quite nice, but they just aren't good enough to make Incision, like, competitive with Noxious Blast when you have, like, good Blight skill chance, and it just isn't good enough as, like, a trinket to equip, because half your trinket slots for Incision, really? For, like, 1/4 of a kit and nothing else? No. If this was neutral accuracy, though, then I would be very different about this. Then this would be, like, all the way up here. But it doesn't do that, unfortunately. It's just melee. It's very, very sad, so it just ends up being down here. It's better than nothing, because no downside, and that's what's keeping it up out of this. If this had, like, a major downside or something, or, like, any downside at all, it would be, like, down here, but it doesn't have a downside, so it ends up being better than nothing. Because at least, hey, if you find it early, might as well equip it, right? Oh yeah, Blasphemous Vial, the big one. This is a funny story. I was thinking of making, like, a separate tier just for stuff like Blasphemous Vial, because this is obviously up here. Like, I don't think I have to explain this too much. It gives Plague Doctor every single stat she wants. Accuracy, consistency, for very little downside. Because this downside gets offset by Blinding Gas. Because you just Blinding Gas both stress dealers, and if there's no incoming stress, this downside doesn't exist. Right? And with how consistent you become, thanks to Blasphemous Vial, this is like a no-brainer equip. Like, any Plague Doctor you run, Blasphemous Vial, yeah, it's equipped. Like, you can completely ignore the 20% Blight skill chance, I would still equip this, I don't care. This will not change the placement at all. Like, if this doesn't have the Blight skill chance, don't care. It's staying up here. 10 accuracy and 20% stun skill chance is ridiculous. Getting the 20% Blight skill chance is kind of like a cherry on top. It helps your consistency with damage, but it isn't, like, the main selling point. These two stats are really, really broken. Like, you get accuracy and consistency. Yeah. What more do you want? It's just fantastic. Like, it does everything for PD. There's no playstyle where, like, I would be like, yeah, don't equip Blasphemous Vial, except, like, if you want to, like, spam Incision, in which case, sure. But that's more niche. But yeah, it's amazing. Just always run this. If you have it in your inventory, yeah. It's a no-brainer to go for. If you've seen a Nomad Dragon, you click it, no matter what. I don't care about your economy. You're buying Blasphemous Vial on week 4. I don't care. Buy it. It's so ridiculous. It's like one of the poster children of, like, the broken trinkets, along with Broken Key. Moving on, subject 40 nodes. This thing's garbage. It's so bad. Like, the max HP looks nice, but because of how low PD's base max HP is, it just doesn't do a lot. Like, this is like 5 or 6 max HP at level 1, and at max level, it's like barely more than like 10, which just isn't good enough for a trinket slot. And max HP in general just isn't a good stat, because if you have more max HP, it really only gives you a cushion from like full HP to death's door, and otherwise it doesn't help you, because all that extra max HP you have to heal again. So if you take like 8 damage, you still take 8 damage, right? And unless you hit death's door, or like you get into like the HP threshold where like this actually gave you extra max HP, so like for example when like you are like level 0 PD with like level 1 gear, unless you fall down to like 5 HP or lower, the trinket isn't doing anything, because you could have just had like you would have just not been at death's door anyways, right? Like unless you have like less than 5 HP with this equipped, it isn't doing anything. And the only character where that's different is Flagellant, and while Flagellant with PD is kind of good, getting like a full PD trinket slot to make Redeem slightly better, that's not worth, is it? And the disease resist, of course, I already talked about it with this. It just isn't worth it. It's PD. You have so many other stats you want to get. If you get this like super early from like a croc drop for some reason, then sure, you can equip it, but unless you croc rush like I do, then you most likely won't get this like in the very early game, and by the time you get it, you have like at least 1 speedstone. Like, come on now. Like, all of the common stuff is just better. Just equip those. You might have even Blasphemous Vial, and then it just completely becomes useless. It's just not a good trinket. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, max HP just isn't a useful stat. And if you want defense on PD, Camo Cloak, Feather Crystal, that's a big one. Like, there's so many other trinkets you can get. And very often PD doesn't tend to struggle with the defenses that much, because you are in the backline, and you stun like the two ranks that most likely hit the backline anyways, because frontliners on the enemy side that hit the backline are not that common. Like, most of the time if you have a frontline, they really only target the frontline, and the enemies that target the backline also sit in the enemy backline, so yeah. Like, it's only really good if you get shuffled, then your defenses kind of suck, but if you play Highlight like a real person and you bring like Scouting, like, it's completely fine. And in Torchless, I don't think I have to explain why max HP doesn't really matter that much in Torchless. Like, oh sure, extra 5 HP. Gets crit from full HP to death's door. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's just not a good trinket. It does have a downside though, so it keeps it out of here, but if I see this in like a drop, I just feel sadness. I feel the great sad. This could have been anything else. Now, the section kit. I really want to put this down here. I really want to. This is just worse Bloody Herb. Like, look at this. Look at the stat difference, right? Like, this gives you neutral bleed skill chance and damage. It gives you 5% more damage and 5% more bleed skill chance. And this gives you 10 accuracy. Yeah, buddy. Sure. You're gonna sell me on that. Yeah. I would equip this over Bloody Herb, guys. Trust me. That should about explain it, but I can't really put it down here because it doesn't have a downside. I really want to put Bloody Herb up now. But it really doesn't deserve the niche tier, it's just not good. Like, there's no niche playstyle for this. Just because of, like, how bad the trinket is. And, like, how bad the playstyle is, so... It just never has a niche, it's just really bad. And this thing just kind of, like, joins it. It's just really, really shitty. Like, it helps Incision. If you want to run this and Bloody Herb, I would say run Bloody Herb and any other trinket. Because this doesn't do anything. Unless you want to somehow argue that 25% extra damage on Plague Grenade is going to make a major difference. On, like, on the damage of Plague Grenade. Yeah, gang. This thing isn't good. Yeah, it just doesn't give good stats. You don't care about this. It's just Incision, again. And if you just want a trinket to boost Incision, it's right there. And it's much easier to get as well. The set bonus is nice, but, again, why wouldn't you just equip this? Like, I would just equip Blasphemous Vial over the entire kit. Because Blasphemous Vial offers way more stats than, like, Subject 40 notes and the section kit and the set bonus combined. It's ridiculous. And if you really want to get like 25% max HP, like, you could just run like Bottle. Like, just run Bottle Blasphemous Vial and you get way more stats, right? Like, sure, you have like more stress taken, but I like having actual stats, you know? And having speed is way more important. The set bonus isn't meaningful. It's just really bad. Because you just run one Blasphemous Vial, basically. So, the set is just very sad. Every time I see this, I'm just like, yeah. This could have been, like, literally anything else. Like, these two are some of the worst trinkets in the entire, like, Crimson Court set, I think. Or, like, in the Crimson Court pool, I think. Genuinely. There's, like, a few I would say are worse, but these are, like, really, really bad. The final trinket, Ashen Distillation. 20 dodge, 25% blight skill chance, 30% healing received if message herbs are in inventory. You remember when I was talking about, like, you could get, like, other good defensive trinkets? This is one of them. 20 dodge, no downside. Okay, that's really good. The 20% healing received is also, like, a nice bonus, because medicine herbs are quite useful. They are one of the, like, most common curio interactions, because every single region has at least, like, a few of them. And the interactions tend to be at least good. So they are always worth keeping around. Clearing debuffs can be very useful depending on the region, but the 30% max healing is just a nice bonus. It doesn't, like, help her that much, because very often you'd rather have, like, stats that actually help you, like, survive in the first place, and then, like, also help you, like, a bit during stalling, like giving more effective max HP, which it also does. The 20 dodge in question. And 25% blight skill chance is really nice. If you just want to go for, like, maximum blight skill chance in the late game, this and Blasphemous Vial is really good. And in general, like, if you just want to have, like, a really good PD that has, like, a lot of speed already, like, if you have, like, Crimson Curse, Quick Reflexes, Luminous Quick Draw PD, like, if you have that, yeah, I don't think you need extra speed. But then you have, like, that second slot open, and then it's just kind of like, yeah, do you want Witch's Vial, or do you want Ashen Installation between those two? And if you have it, this is a good option. It helps you with defense, it helps you with more consistent damage against, like, all of those high blight resist enemies, especially if you have, like, the district build as well, because then it just gives you, like, 40% blight skill chance, 60% for Blasphemous Vial, you have, like, 200% base chance, Occultist online at home, basically, just really, really good, and you basically stick every single enemy, even those you shouldn't be sticking, especially if you crit as well, and 20 dodge is a really, really good defensive upside, so, yeah. Like, this is more defenses, this is more consistency on your stance, basically. And it just depends on, like, what you want. Both are good options. And, yeah. Like, outside of, like, speed trinkets, these two are, like, the main two options I would go for as, like, my second slot. Because other options are, like, Pistol is really good. The Prophet's Eye is really good. Those two are, like, kind of heavy competition. But if you have your speed covered, hey, these are perfectly serviceable. Really good trinkets. This is usually the trinket I recommend getting if you already have Broken Key, because it's just very cheap as well. 45 shards is, like, easily doable in, like, one run, so yeah. That's about it. I think I'm happy with this tier list. I really want to move this down. I really want to move this up, but I really can't. They aren't good, and this doesn't have a downside, so it doesn't really belong down here. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, all that stuff. You can leave a comment if you think I'm stupid and wrong about all this, and yeah. Goodbye. This time was actually way shorter, 22 minutes. Yo, I'm becoming less yapful. Holy.